still not working? Okay. I thought I had the mic situation worked out, but we do not. Let's fix it. Why did I do that? Okay. Hello. Nope, that didn't work. Hello. Almost. Wow. Is that too loud? Must be the fan. Hold on a second. Okay. Maybe that's good. Might be picking up too much background noise. Well, let's try this. If it's too much background noise, you all can tell me that that is the case. And let's get rolling here. I've got a lunch appointment, so we're going to get started. And then I'll go grab some lunch. Okay. So yesterday we got 43, so that wasn't so bad. Let's see if we can get... Always after 50. Never quite work. Wow, this is a weird first one. Usually they're just straight up back row mates. So this one I have to think about. We are actually down a piece at the start of this, which is kind of shocking. I don't see an easy mate. I do see several possibilities here. If we play this check, they can block it. We win a piece, but we're just even. This is a shockingly hard first one. Clearly this is hanging. Okay, so I think this is the answer. We take here, and this knight is hanging. It cannot, whoops, it can't run away. All the spots are covered. It can run to c5, but then the queen can come out double attack and win it. So I believe this works, but that is an incredibly hard first puzzle. I'm not saying it's a hard puzzle, but that feels like a mid-run puzzle, not the very first one. That's kind of surprising. Okay. The knight is backed up. The knight is covering a lot of things. The pawn is covering stuff, so we can just go here and get a mate. Brosinger Gaming. The puzzler has returned indeed. We're doing our daily survival puzzle. That's what I've decided to do this summer. Except for when I go to my tournament in a few weeks. Then I won't be doing it. That looks like the obvious move, but it doesn't work at all. This is hanging. I gotta think a hanging piece with no ramifications seems pretty good. Hanging queens are always nice to grab. Oh, now we got it. Our back row checkmate. There's usually like 10 of them at the beginning, so this is weird. That was our first one. Now we got another one. And now we have a queen in your face mate. G2 is covered by the bishop. Another queen in your face mate. The rook supporting the queen. White to move. Is it queen to f7 check? The pawn, I mean the king slips out. We chase. The king comes down. We chase some more, and now the king is locking out all the escape squares. So that king is playing a big role to finish this off. Okay, looks like we have another queen in your face mate, supported by the knight this time. Another queen in your face mate, supported by the knight. Okay, this one is interesting. We have this check, and if these two pieces were reversed, then it'd be mate. But it's not mate, it's just check. So the king will move over. Then the question is, how do we deliver mate? We cannot really go here to check. It's covered so many ways. So that's not really an option. I'm wondering if this queen looks too deep. She's gone in too far. I guess this pawn is not covered because I was thinking rook to e6 actually wins the queen, but the queen can take there. So then the question is, does that get us anywhere? Maybe not. It is interesting to note that if the king were on h1 and the queen is on h5, knight g3 is a fork, but it is still covered by plenty of things. So we would have to like really engineer that one to make it happen, which seems unrealistic. Another point to make is that if we force the king over, we have this knight f2 move for check. The rook has to take or they lose, and then it looks like our rook can slide in and mate. So let's just make sure that works. That's kind of a long one. So it's like bishop takes, h2 check, king moves over to h1, the knight goes to f2, it's a check. The only move is rook takes f2, rook to, this is a problem, rook to e1 check, and somehow I was thinking the rook was stuck on f2. It is not. It just goes back and blocks the check. And so now what? What comes next? I suppose, nope, I was going to say the queen could go to f4, but the bishop's covering f4. Boy, this is a very hard one for being number 12. I think the reason it's so low is because bishop h2 is just right, and most people just snap that off and then get credit for getting it right. But it is harder than that. So here, check, back, take, here. How does the queen get involved to finish this off? Because that's got to be the deal. I guess maybe then queen comes in here and is threatening stuff. I'm not seeing this fully. I know this is the answer. Like, there's just no doubt in my mind that that is the answer. And then the question, I guess, is that knight here or here, and knight g3 does not. Knight g3 doesn't work for so many reasons, actually. So we're just gonna take here. Oh, of course it works, because when the king moves over, the rook is no longer. The king is no longer defending the rook. So I totally missed that. Are you high? Queen takes rook. What? Did I say something ridiculous in there? With I did. Wow, that's funny. Yeah, I was saying rook. I was looking at rook e6 attacking the queen, and the queen just takes the rook, and I never even noticed that. I noticed the queen could run, but I just assumed the rook was backed up. Yeah, good point. Okay, Daniel, what's happening, my friend? I hope things are going well. Okay, I think I see a mate. It's this combo, the knight rook working so well together. So knight goes to f5. There's not many moves for the king. There's only one. The king goes to g6, and the knight is backing up this square. So it's a nice little knight rook combo. This is that, chess.com mate. You push him back, and then you back row. They really like that one. There's usually 2 of those a game. Well, 2 of those a puzzle, I mean. Never in a game. Isn't just rook e6 mate. I'm like trying to figure out which direction these pawns are going. So this pawn is going down, and this pawn is covering the square. So that is mate. Okay. This is a very interesting one of like a lot happening here. So I'm initially drawn to ideas of trying to mate or do something cool along this diagonal. But the queen is covering it. This bishop is hanging. but the queen and rook are touching then. It's a showdown situation if you have my chessable course. These two pieces are staring at each other. When this pawn moves, something big is going to happen, right? So the theory with the course is that if you want to win that showdown, right? If you're in the OK Corral in the American West, you don't want to be the one who loses the showdown. Okay, so what do we do here? Everything else is pretty backed up. So it really feels like the thematic pieces here are exposed king along the diagonal, and these two pieces being vulnerable. So how do we take those themes and really make them work for us? So if I go queen b4 check, they almost have to take, right? There's almost no way to do something else. Okay, I think I see it then. So if we then take back with the knight is actually having a new threat. The knight is threatening this fork. And we're attacking this bishop. So the only way to stop both of those threats would be to bring the bishop back here, but I can just take. And then when they take back with the knight, they're not covering the new threat. So this is the answer. It's trying to layer on top. Wait, what happened? Oh, this is pinned. That does not work at all. But this works just fine. We take threat and then new threat. Get rid of queen so you can take the bishop. Yeah. Things are good. How was your game last night? That's right. That's right. I played a game last night. I already forgot. Wow. It went very well. I played my first over the board Sicilian, and I even did a little mind game thing. I took my c pawn and I moved it like I was going to put it on c6. I didn't even put it down though. And then I kind of looked at it funny, and then I dropped it on c5. And the kid looked very surprised. I think he and his buddies had gotten together, to at least find a line that he would play against their Caro-Kann. And I think he was prepared. He's only rated about 1,000, so I don't think he had like deep opening prep, but still had a plan. And I think he was quite surprised when I played the Sicilian. So that was kind of fun. Okay. We can't just take this free rook. That seems pretty good. We could also play rook b1. And no, that would be terrible. Yeah, I don't see why we don't just... Oh, okay. No, because it's not a free rook. This rook would be hanging. So how do we do this then? If we take, they take. If we check, take, check. Here. We still haven't gained anything. Oh, yes, we have. Yeah. So if we go check, or check, takes, check, moves, then this rook takes this rook. If we go check, king just moves. No, king can't go there. Okay, so this works fine. There, takes. You gain the extra strength to push it. Yes, I was lifting, and so now that I'm swole, I can move the pawn 2 squares. But it was fun. I won a piece very early. I had a nice tactic. And so from there, the game was less interesting. But, these kids are tactical dynamos. And so I worked really hard to limit his counterplay. But still, I wasn't able... I made probably what I would consider maybe a human misstep. The computer's like, no, you're crushing always. But I gave him, like, mating threats. And there was even a moment where I was really cute and tricky and did this cool tactic that I didn't see his counterplay, and luckily I had an answer. And if I had not had an answer, I would have lost, and I would have been I would have been truly devastated. Okay, so let's solve this one real quick. I thought this was an easy one, but they block with the rook, and suddenly I'm going, huh? I thought this was an easy one. So another thought is I could put a rook in front of the king, and then let's say here, and the king moves. The problem is this bishop is covering this one, and this rook is covering this one. So I don't know that that works. It feels like rook h8 should work. Takes, but it just doesn't. And bishop g7 doesn't work. Oh no, bishop g7 does work, but it doesn't do that much, right? The king just goes, say, to e8. Then I move the bishop, and what exactly did I gain? That's a bit unclear. So I'm really struggling with this one, actually. Okay, maybe this is the answer. Check. Rook has to stop it. Then we do this check. Then the king has to move over here. Then we check, picks up the rook, but we get the other rook. So that seems to work. Okay. What was your opponent's rate? My opponent was only rated 1,000. And he's not like... He's definitely an underrated kid, but he's not like one of those underrated kids where they're like some of the kids at my club that I've played when they've been 1,000 are clearly at least 1,500 strength. This kid is not. He's an up-and-coming kid who I'm sure in another year will be 1,500, but he's not 1,500 now who just doesn't have that rating. He's just a regular kid getting better at chess. Check here. Check here is the problem. How do we stop this escape? I guess the knight is still covering this, so we can still continue pursuing, and that's actually mate. So we can go here, and we pursue the mate. Let's see. That's the same transition I had from going French to e5. Okay, interesting. Yeah, and it's a thing for me. It's not that I... Ooh, we got an unfortunate diagonal. It's not that I don't like the Caro-Kann. I find the Caro-Kann to be a fun opening. I tend to like quiet games and positional games. I find them to be fun. Especially against higher rated players, I found it to be a really good weapon, where they often overpress and try to get more from the position and get frustrated. And that works very well. But I've also found the opposite to be the case, that when I play someone quite low rated, it ends up being a long, positionally drawn out game where they're just looking for their one tactical shot. And I don't know, I just have been thinking lately that I want to have another option in my arsenal. I think I go check, takes, but let's see what the material is like. We are currently down one piece. We would win a rook, so we would be up an exchange, which is pretty good. Can we get more somehow? Like, is this just checkmate? Yes, that is just checkmate. Okay, glad I looked for more. And this is a standard pattern where the rooks help each other out here. Just push into the corner and cut off the escape. Pushing the pawn 1 versus 2 squares was meant as a joke. Yeah, I know. You lost to a 1400-ish kid last March. It was humiliating torture. I mean, I've lost to much lower rated kids than 1400. The kids at my club, we have a kind of a problem that's happening where the way that the structure is that they are stuck. I shouldn't say stuck. They play in a section of other kids. The highest rated kid is like 800. So they play against each other for quite a long time. And by the time they move out of that section, they are much stronger than 800. Then they get thrown into the sharks with the like all the adults and end up just losing game after game after game to 1600s because they're not 1600. They're more like 1100. So then they're getting much better. And so they might go 6 months without a win. But now they're really like 1600 strength, but they haven't been able to beat anyone yet. So they're still rated 1,000. And then in one tournament, they go from like, they beat everybody and they go from 1,000 to 1250. The next tournament, they go to 1,500. The next one, they go to 1,700. So those 3 tournaments, so it's this horrible thing where for months, they lose all their games and all the adults get no rating points for beating them. But then they get strong and the adults are all like, oh no, I'm going to be the person who loses to them now. And then the adults lose all the rating points because the kid takes them all. So I'm trying to help the club do a more middle ground where there's like the kids up to 800 and then there's like an 800 to say 1400 section where they can improve and gain rating points and not have to lose for 6 straight months in the process. Like it can be challenging to lose that many games. So I think it'll be good. I think it's a win for everyone. That's my goal. Okay, let's solve this puzzle. So we go here. This is what I'm looking at least. The rook's cutting off everything. So if I check, king can only go here. I was looking at g4. Oh, yes. And I was thinking the king could escape, but he cannot because the knight is doing this amazing job just cutting off everything. But hold on. There's a little nuance here. If we go here, and push with a pawn, they can actually sack their queen. Then we take, and then they take, but then we have our knight here winning the rook at the end. Wow. So my guess is most people don't see that. They see to here, and then they go, what? And then they get lucky and find this. But we solved it all the way to the end. Yes, Daniel sees it too. And we are breeding monsters, by the way. These kids are very strong. The most annoying experience I had was this kid who started, and I played him when he was like 1,000. And kids, there are some things to know. Like, they usually play too fast, and they are careless. And this kid I knew was good from the first time I played him. He was only rated 1,000. But he took his time. He was very methodical. He played very carefully. I was able to win, but it was an incredibly hard-fought battle. And I was just like, this is insane that this kid is 1,000. He's easily 1,500. Where some of the kids, like the kid last night, he's 1,000, and that's probably fairly accurate. He might be like 1,100. He might be 1,200, and he might go up quickly. But he didn't have all the nuance that, you know, but he did take his time, which was good. Okay, so let's look at this. Check. The knight's cutting off a lot of important squares. King can't go here because that would be mate. So king has to go here. The queen comes into f2. And what is worrying me is when the king goes here to d3, he's threatening the knight and threatening to escape on c2. So let's do some calculation here. Boom, 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 boom. How do we stop that? We could... Okay, it's not threatening to go to c2 because our queen's cutting it off. So it looks like we could go knight c5 check. And then that actually wins. Yeah, that wins. That's mate on the spot. This is mate. Okay. Good. And Daniel sees it. Hi there. How did your game go last night? Thanks for asking, Fried Foxy. I played against a 1,000 rated kid. I won a piece in the middle game. I played the Sicilian, and I won. But it got messy. I'll show you guys if we have time. We're already on 26. We might have time. All right, so there's a check. If this is the pattern, we've seen this a million times. But why can't they go king e7? If they do that... we will come in here, check. King moves here. And then it gets interesting. I guess like the king move, the knight goes here. This is definitely the answer. And the answer, I knew this was going to be the way they would take. The other way is messy. It's like a very complicated situation. This would be an epaulet mate, except for the queen is covering it. So instead of that mate, we will take this mate. This check looks promising. If they block, we take, check, win the rook. If they move the king, we've got a couple options. We can like bishop g4, they block it. Could also take this b pawn. We're threatening to come back and check. We're threatening the rook. I think probably bishop check is the strongest. What's the material like? Yeah, so we're even material. So let's just say we're playing a game and they move the king up. Well, then we're in business, right? There's no way they're going to be fine. We could just simply castle and say we're winning. So I think this is fine. Yeah, I'll take the rook. Same mate as last puzzle. Okay. Ooh, too bad we don't have a bishop for the unfortunate diagonal. We even have a, we're even protecting the square. Okay. I'm looking at this check as the most forcing move. The king is quite cut off, can only go to e6. We check again. The queen is covering it, and that's it. 30 with no mistakes. Okay, I like it. All right, I think I already see this one. This comes from Chess Tactics from Scratch. This idea of seeing, whenever I see a knight in the vicinity of major pieces, I just look. Is there a forking square? Okay, the queen is on a forking square. The other forking square is there, so let's just put the king on it. Bing, bong. That book is incredibly good, by the way. All right, this looks... Oh, that would be mate if it weren't for the knight. It's not mate, but this, I believe, is going to be mate. The knight blocks, but then the rook goes here. Oh, that's not mate, though. But now it will be. The pawn, that back pawn did a good job. Alrighty. So it's two questions. Which way are we taking? I believe the answer is this way. Then they go back. We check. They come up. We check. They move. Rook falls. Let's look at the other way just to be clear. Here, 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 and we get nothing. The king just runs around, blah blah blah, and they're fine. So we're gonna go here, here, and we get the rook. Can we just go rook takes h2? It is not check, so we'll have to make sure they don't have anything forcing in there. But king takes, queen h5, king goes back, bishop f3, and then they can't stop the mate. So, do they have anything cool? No. No, they don't. The queen can't get on the light square to check on this diagonal. The best they can do is like sack a rook to not be able to do anything. So we're good. Okay, I wasn't expecting that. Is that a good move? I mean, it hangs their queen, so it can't be that good. Okay. I think f4 is mate. That's a funny mate if that's mate. I mean, it is mate. f4 mate. Okay. Interesting. Okay, people would like to see the game. Yeah, I think we'll have time. This is where my brain is being pulled to. It's attacking the queen and unveiling a discovery on the bishop. So, can they move the queen to a spot to guard the bishop? Yes. They could go queen f4 and only queen f4. Do we have a follow-up? Yes, we do. The follow-up would be we take the rook on c1, then they have to come back, take that rook, and then the bishop is hanging. Let's make sure material is even. Yeah, so this works. Ah, but what if they take first? I didn't think about that. Maybe that doesn't work then. I'm looking at what if we took first with the knight. I don't think that works. Then they take our queen. We don't have anything. So we're taking with the queen or the bishop. If we take with the queen, we're threatening their back row. Yeah, we win a knight at the end. Okay, so we take here. We take this piece, pulling the queen away from the defense of this square, which leaves the knight vulnerable, and we're covering our knight. Okay. They have two hanging knights side by side. That's interesting. Actually, I guess that's not true. The bishop is defending the other one. So what if we were to go d takes e5, grab that knight with the pawn. They take... No. They take back with the pawn. Queens are staring at each other. We take, they take with a rook. It's even. I think maybe more what we want to do is notice there's mate threats. The H file looks very enticing. If we were to go queen h3, the problem is, can't they go knight g5? Ah, that only covers one of the two mating squares, though. So it doesn't stop anything. We have the mating square in h7 and h8 because of the pawn and the rook. They could take the pawn. And then we don't have mate, actually. That's interesting. So I think we need to take here first, so they can't take this pawn. And we take here first, and what if they just move the rook? Then we try this. They move away, check, and they get away. So is that too slow? Wow, okay. It's getting harder and harder. Another thing, which is probably the answer, is rook check. Takes... Queen check, comes back, then we got it. Okay, so this is the answer. I had to really work really hard to get there. I imagine you guys saw it immediately. Yeah. Yep, Matthew saw... Yep, you guys both saw it, and Matthew saw my problem. I'm happy that I'm getting a little bit better at trying to refute my ideas rather than just run in. Okay, I think this is mate. I think we go check here... check, and the pawn is covering the escapes. Wow, those arrows were terrible. The pawn on f5 is kind of the MVP here. So yes, this looks like it works. Okay, 38. We are rolling. We've got this fork, but then the king moves, and now the rook is backed up. So that fork kind of dissipates quickly. So what if... No. Could put the rook here on d2, threatening mate on f2. How do they stop that? They don't have any cool checks. Yeah, I don't think that is stoppable. I'm looking at the queen. Yeah, this should work. Sending up mate. Okay, I guess I didn't fully recognize that, but it doesn't do anything. Okay. I'm guessing this is a discovery, because if we hit that rook twice, we win. It's a back row mate. So all you have to do is have the bishop move away. But I'm not seeing a way for the bishop to move in such a way that they can't just take our rook and then we don't get anything. So I'm a little bit struggling with that one, trying to figure out how we're going to do this. Because we like bishop f5, but then they take our rook, we take back. They take our bishop, we take back, and we don't really have anything. And then I was looking at stuff like queen takes h2 as just like a motif that you often see in these positions, but that doesn't work either. They just take with the queen and say, okay, sounds fine. So how are we making this happen? What about like knight g4? Does that do much? I would assume they would take the knight. And again, we don't really have anything. We could put the queen on g3, which is intriguing. They would take, and in a lot of patterns that would lead to mate, but we're not covering the g1 square with a bishop. We can't hit the h file. None of these seem like they quite work. The queen is looking pretty darn trapped. Like if we could close off that diagonal. But yeah, like if we played g5 and then had a free move to teleport the rook to h8, that would be a win also. Ooh, a lot of ideas I'm coming up with. None of them work. Another more simple idea I just had was b5, but the knight actually is fine. It has plenty of places to run. That's not an issue. But the knight is loose. So I could... that is one thing we could do. So if I was looking at all the ways to bring the queen out, the bishop out in these directions, we could simply slide the bishop back and we're hitting this knight. So if we do that and they take our rook, and then I take back, they could just move the knight is the problem at that point. And then our rook is on that file but not really doing anything. Or they take our rook, we take the knight, then they take our other rook, we take back, but we've traded 2 rooks for a rook and a knight. So I feel like we're getting closer now, but we haven't quite figured this thing out. Let me get rid of the arrows. There. I guess I could then... No, I was going to say I could put the queen on e6, but if they... and double, and threaten at least mate, and maybe be able to make something happen, but they could just go knight c5 and not even allow that. So more and more, I really just don't think I'm seeing the main motif here. I think that has to be the issue, that I've locked into some other motifs and they are not correct. And I'm not able to kind of pull my brain back into the actual motif that's important. I'm also seeing this as something interesting. Like if they were to take, but this bishop is still blocking. So I'm going to go here. And it is right, but I don't... Oh, I can take this way. That's the answer. I see now. I now see it. And then we get the piece. Okay. Full board vision needed here. Yeah, definitely. There were a lot of different geometries there, and I wasn't catching them all. Let's see. Daniel. Yeah, Daniel got it. Nice work. All right. Check. Block. Then what? Pawn is in the way to do something too interesting. The bishop would be hanging. I feel like the answer is most likely knight takes. King takes. Doesn't seem to quite work. Like that's being covered by the knight. I can't check from this direction, so I don't think that works. So why is the knight there? The knight is not hanging. It's just chilling. So we can kind of ignore the knight, even though I'm sure it's part of the puzzle. We can ignore it while we're trying to get this set up. I mean, castling actually looks quite good here. But I have to imagine castling is not the answer. That would be funny if it was. I mean, there aren't many options. Okay, the other option I'm looking at, no, it doesn't work either, is knight e6, but bishop takes e6, I think ends any further conversation. I don't know. This one seems like when I first saw this one, I was like, oh, this will be the easiest one we do today. And then suddenly it's like, or not. Yeah, I don't know. I can't quite. Oh, okay. Now I think I see it. Yeah, I got it. Okay. So what I was missing was there was a showdown here. There's a showdown between these two pieces. So when I move the bishop, we're going to win the queen. So if I go, say, takes, then when I go here, check, I win the queen. The question is if I go here, I guess they can't really ignore it. Yeah. So we go here, and then we win the queen. And that's a standard opening trap. I've actually fallen for something similar to that. There's a Caro-Kann line that does something really interesting. And if you fall into it, you lose your queen. It's really terrible. Okay. Queen b5 looks like it just picks up the knight. I guess not. What am I talking about? I was thinking they had to go king e7. They absolutely do not have to. But what we could do instead is takes, then check. And now there's no way to save the piece. Okay. So we got 42 in with no mistakes. Things are really cooking along. This check is sort of the obvious move that my brain wants to at least examine. If the king moves here or here, we're getting mate. If the king moves here, I think we're still going to end up getting mate. Yeah, okay, so this is, yeah, this is the obvious pattern. We're going to go here first. And then this is a pattern so that they can't stick the knight in front. I've seen that pattern a bunch of times. Now I don't quite know how to explain that one. Other than I've seen it. Which is part of the point of doing these puzzles, right? Is that your brain just goes, we don't need to talk about this. We know this one. We've seen this one. Now, as a streamer, it's good to be able to talk about it. Can we go here and win this piece? The queen can go any number of spots, still defending the knight. In fact, they could go here. No, they can't check. Yes, they could check because our queen is moved. Then we could block this way. I don't know. This queen looks quite limited. In fact, No, I guess that doesn't work. I was looking at rook f4, but they could just move back to e2. So how are we doing this? So knight here, queen to there. We take, they take back, or they just take our queen. So that does not work well. Oh, plus that's check. So, oh, right. And if we try to block the check this way, we would lose our queen. So I don't know that that works at all. I don't think that does. I think that's the misdirect. I really like rook f4. They don't have a lot of options. They kind of got to move their queen back to e2. And then what? Wait, are we winning by a whole piece right now? We are currently winning by a piece. So what exactly is the puzzle? The puzzle here is not getting mated, I guess. All right, I'm gonna do this. I don't know that this is right. Okay, yeah, I didn't really understand that puzzle. When you're up a piece, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around, like, what even is the puzzle in this position. Okay. Okay, so the point was when they come in here and do their destruction to give yourself an escape square. Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Why didn't queen h5? Knight c5 threatens 2 pieces. Okay, let's look at that again. What are we saying? Knight c5 threatens 2 pieces. Knight c5 does threaten 2 pieces. But they could just... Oh, they can't just take it because the queen is hanging. Got it. Good call. All right. We're at 43. This is what we got yesterday. Let's see if we can get, I don't know, at least 2 more. Incremental growth would be nice. We don't have to get 50. So there's a lot happening around this king that I am looking at. There's like, all these moves look reasonable to me. So we have to sort of calculate every one of them and see if we can make one of them work. I think the one I want to look at first is rook takes e6, because if they take with the pawn, we take with our rook and win. We win their queen. The problem with this move is, can they check? It looks like they can't, because our rook is still covering that square, the queen is covering the other check. Yeah, so I think this wins. We take here. If they don't take, and they do something different, then almost no matter what, we still... I guess we don't have that, right? Because take... Yeah, no, we have that. Yeah, this is going to win. Okay. All right, 44. Here we go. My instincts are looking at this. Bishop c4. But it doesn't do that much. The queen moves, we pick up this bishop. They take with the rook and can still even castle long, so it's not like we're gaining that much. And that knight is hanging. And material is even. Okay, so there is a problem. If we were to try to just take the knight right off... Nope, this doesn't work actually. We would block the check. So maybe we can just take the knight. We take this knight. Why can't we take the knight? Check. Blocks the check. Goes here. And then they've invaded, and it's kind of annoying. So maybe I go here first. But then they could go, say, here. Hitting the knight. And then I don't get anything. I think I'm going to take the knight, and I think it has to be wrong. That's just such a basic move. Okay, it's not wrong. And I just come back and block. Okay, so here's the tricky part. I think I just go... Oh, no. The knight's hanging. Yeah, I guess what do I do here? Here? Seems fine. Okay, wow, this is getting very deep. And then I block here. Or not block, but I back it up. And then I go here. Okay. So it was not a hard one. It was just kind of a long one where you had plenty of moments to go awry. My instinct is takes, check, picks this guy up. But that's not that much. We get a pawn. So the other move seems to be here, threatening the free piece and the not mate, but will become mate. The problem is, what if they just... Okay, no, that doesn't work, and that doesn't work. This could work, though, but then we pick up the piece, so this works. What? That didn't work. Wow. Why does this not work? I don't see it. That doesn't work either. Okay. That's not right. Oh, yeah, that would just hang the queen. I don't understand why that doesn't work. Oh, because the knight can go there. Got it. So we need to go here. And then here. And then what? Actually not seeing the final move here. I don't know. What? Okay, and then the fork. Wow. Alright, so I did not go nearly deep enough with that one. Oops, that's not where we're at. Where we're here. Alright, well, we're on 45. Yep. Let's take the rook and then fork. You are correct. White to move. Their pawn is going up. Okay. So if we were to go rook g7 and they took, we would just win. We would queen. They're going to move, though. And if we go rook e7, they're going to take with the king. We check, and they're not going to step in front of their rook. So that's not going to work. But if we say rook g7, they move their rook off of the file. Then we push f7. I guess what I'm looking at is, what if it's like here, they come for the long side checking. Then I push. Then they check. Is that mate, actually? Yeah, I think I got myself mated. So here, and yeah, I have to push this or I lose the pawn. I guess I could go there, but then they take the pawn. Whew. This one looks like it would be easy. Check, takes, check, there. No. Okay, this is the only move I see, but I'm not sure it works because of this. Maybe now we can go here. Here, no, that does not work. Here, check. And how do we get out of that mate? We don't. So I don't know what's happening. Maybe here, and then here. Here, check, there. Oy. I mean, there's only so much we can do because if this hits, we draw. So how do we... Stopping them from taking that pawn is push the pawn here or here. Here, 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 here. Can't push the pawn. Here, check. My brain is like, this works, but it just doesn't. Here. Here. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't think that was the answer. That's very weird. I couldn't figure out a pretty darn easy one. This doesn't work. There just aren't many moves. Okay, I didn't think this worked. That's interesting. You're going to stop it here. Because why can't they just check? Oh my goodness. When I push the pawn, it's check. Wow. Okay. That's the part I missed. That's the part I missed. Oh, yep. Fried Foxy has that there. Yeah, it's the check. Oh, well. We did pretty well. 45. Getting better. Let me see how much time I have before I have to leave. Okay. We can look at the game from last night for about 5 minutes only. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time. Let's see if I can quickly make this happen. I think if I change... How about now? There we go. Sound should be back. Sorry about that. Okay. So let's go back. Like I said, I thought we were going into the open actually, and then I was like, oh, okay, he's not going for the open. Regarding, have I found these survival rush runs to be helpful for my chess? I think so. It's just quite a bit of calculating. It's like an hour of calculating every day, which I think is helpful. I went here because I thought, well, he might transpose back into the open, and I want to be able to do that. And then he went here, and it's just like, okay, e6 is like a standard, just blunting move for this bishop. Castles. I'm just making regular moves. I decided to play a6 to be able to play b5. It just felt normal. It's not the main database move. It's actually the top engine move, so I guess I should say that's fine. And then he played here. I thought this was weird. I was surprised, but it seems reasonable, right? He brings his knight in, and things look a little scary. I get to play b5. Okay, I'm gonna castle first. I was looking at b5 now, but I don't know. It just seemed like castling was a good idea first. b5 doesn't win. But b5 looks very good now. By sticking his knight here, he just doesn't have a lot of squares left for this bishop. Like if I play b5 here, let's say here, maybe this was the time to do it actually. What was I worried about? If here, and then this just wins the piece, right? So did I miss something? I was thinking I couldn't do it just, or not couldn't, but it didn't work as well yet. I think maybe the reason is stuff like this becomes interesting. No, I'm not. Wait, could I have just played b5 there? Yes, it's not as devastating though, because they can go here, and then if I go here, oh right, they just have here, right? The knight's backing it up, right? So that's what I was seeing, and so I thought, okay, I don't want to rush into it. I'll castle first. But then when he went there, now he takes away that square, and so I'm like, okay. When I go here, I did see that you could follow up by removing the piece from the square. So I was like, okay, well, that's fine. I take back, and then we'll see what he does. He goes back. And then I decide I'll just play bishop b7. I'm once again taking away this square. So now this is an opportunity. Let's see how he handles it, right? So I'm going to keep setting up potential traps. Yeah, you guys saw why I wasn't trapped. But then he went here, and I was like, so you didn't resolve your problem. Wait, no, sorry. the queen is also covering. But he's created a new problem now, where by playing f4 to back up the knight, which was loose, he's got a big problem, because I can lure this bishop now to this square, which is backed up by the queen, but I can then attack it a second time with the check. So that's when he got in trouble, right? So all of this was like me just setting up stuff and making his life a little bit harder and trying to find a way to take advantage of this awkward stuff. And then he just walked right into it. And so I just went boom, check, blocks with the rook. I decided to take with a queen to get some pieces off the board. And the game's over, right? Like, I proceed to trade out more pieces. And I put this here to sort of make the bishop even worse. I brought my rook over here to threaten the pawn. He takes. I get to take with a knight. So, like, everything's protected. I'm up quite a bit of material. And he is dead. And so but he made the game interesting. This was a terrible move, though. Like, this move is so bad because now look at this the bishop. If I don't move this bishop can never move this game. It is just permanently entombed in nothingness. I was shocked when he made that move. So I was like, okay, I'll just trade off more pieces. And now I'm up basically 2 pieces because his bishop can't move. This looks really passive, and I almost didn't make it in the game. I was like, no, I have to hold on to this pawn because I can just slowly do whatever I want. My opponent can do nothing. They only have this one rook. So I just kind of slowly did my thing, but then suddenly, he's making some moves. He brings his king in, so I decided it's worth letting him have his bishop out to be able to hold on to this pawn and not give him any counterplay. And so, wisely, he does get him out. What I should have done here was taken here, and then I'm threatening this. I'm threatening, like this would have been a really strong move. I thought this was really good because I'm setting up a passed pawn. But it actually gives him a ton of very interesting counterplay. He goes here, so now his bishop can... what he's setting up is this. This diagonal and this rook is mate, right? And even if I try to make this escape square, it's still mate. So it's a little bit scary. So I decided, okay, I'll trade a rook for a queen. That's fine if that's what you want to do. Now he's setting up the mate. So I found this really clever idea. I can check he takes, I get my queen with a free move. But I missed something. Check this out. Now when he moves over, it's unstoppable mates. And I was just like, wait, what? Because my whole plan had been at any moment I can always just play F4 and get out of it. But this is unstoppable mate. And I freaked out for a second. I was like, no, you've got to be kidding me. And then I calmed myself because I was looking at like checking the, all I have to do is check the king, but I can't check the king. And my knight's off in La La Land, my bishop's stuck, but I found this move. And this move saves everything. And now we're fine. So the computer's never worried. The computer's like, you got this thing won. But I was freaking out. And then I went here. And then from here, the game is just over. He plays it all the way to mate, though. He's a kid. Kids love playing to mate. And we just played all the way to mate. And then I was like, no, I'll just bring the king up. That'll be fun. Boop. So, oh, exactly, Daniel. I was like, what am I doing? Why have I let my opponent have this much counterplay? This is madness. Like, this is an easy win. And I thought I was doing a great job stopping the counterplay. Let's go back. I was very proud of this idea of moving the bishop up and around. And I thought that was just really strong. And I think, had I just taken here, my opponent has zero counterplay, right? Like, this bishop is still pretty much useless. If they want to not give me this pass pawn, they have to go here. And it's just, the game is over. And, you know, there's really not much challenge here. But yeah, oh my goodness. I started to get cute, and the cuteness almost backfired. And I had a friend watching, and he was like, man, oh my goodness, you were worrying me so much. So we should make a Chess Journeys dictionary. Clean, crean, counterplay, counter, please. Okay. Wait, Kevin, could you have gotten your rook to d5 earlier? To d5 earlier. I don't know. Let's see. I mean, if I wanted to give up that pawn, certainly. Do you mean to, like, stop that and try to get a mate in there? If you get rook to d5, it shuts out king and covers b-pawn. Yeah, I agree. But I don't think I had that opportunity. Let's see. Because I was... After I took, I had to move. Then I moved. I had to protect the pawn. Then he comes in, and that is what I was trying to do, was get my rook to b5, but it was challenging to do. Wait, actually, no, because as soon as okay, I could have gone here, 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 and then I would have been fine. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, but for some reason, actually, wait. Okay, yeah, so that was a ridiculous move by me. I didn't need to move to king b8, right? Couldn't I have just gone right to king here and then here? Oh, no, because of the mate threat. That's why. Yeah, I saw that during the game. And I was like, ooh, I can't do that. That was what I wanted to do. So I had to take that moment to go g6 to be able to then hop back. But then he got in too soon. So he got a lot of counterplay he shouldn't have gotten. It was my fault. It was very frustrating, but now I have to go. Get lunch with a friend, and I'll see you all next time, which will be tomorrow. See you tomorrow.